2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Scott Geirman, senior staff writer, DodgerBlue.com. I'm here with my good buddy, an absolute dynamo, big time, big brain, baseball noggin, Blake Williams. How we doing, buddy?
Doing pretty well. Just ready for the trades to actually start picking up here.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other thoughts? Kick us off?
Not really. I'll be out in San Diego starting tomorrow to cover the Dodger series for the 30th and 31st. So looking
Sounds
forward
good.
to that, I guess. First time being out there. So got some good stuff coming here.
Beautiful. Good. All right. What's up, chat? Shout out to the 300 in here early on. We're going to take this low and slow. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot of opinions. What's up, everybody? David, Mike, what's good? Mr. Classic, Matty, man. It's good to see everybody. Good day today. Scary day today. Could have been a sweep. Absolutely. Dave Roberts almost cost River Ryan a very special day, but we're going to get into all of it. Yeah. Everybody take a deep breath. Like I said on Twitter, we've got time. We've got time till the trade deadline. I've seen some people saying, oh, yeah, Friedman's punting the deadline again. There's no reason to do that. We've seen multiple times them wait up until the deadline to make the move, to announce the move, and that's how it's going. So let's settle in. We've got time. He's doing things, rumors coming out. And just because you're not hearing any leaks doesn't mean stuff's not working behind the scenes. Yeah, Mr. Classic, 44 hours left. So there's time. So we're going to digest it all. We're going to break it down. We're going to get opinions. We're going to take everybody's, point of view about what you think and what you're seeing currently. And, Gavin Lux trending way up, making a believer us out of us all. Tell me to shut up, Scott. We're here. This is second half Gavin Lux. It's great. It's about somebody separating themselves, somebody elevating themselves. So it plugs another hole in the roster so that when we look at the Dodgers look at their roster right now and look towards the deadline, they're saying, okay, Max Muncy might not come back. We don't know what we're getting out of center. We don't know what the platoon and left, yada, yada. And then we'll go from there. So today was a good day in terms of seeing a little bit more from Gavin Lux, making me feel a little bit more comfortable there. But we're just going to go straight into it. Dodgers avoid getting swept. It was bleak. So Evan Phillips yesterday, middle game, that was tough. Before we go into today, Blake, can you kind of give me, a quick rundown of Friday and Saturday?
Do we have to?
You don't have to.
It was bad.
Just quick. That's why I said quick. Give me the fastest rundown from those games.
Yeah, I don't think anything happened in those games. The Dodgers had some off days. Nothing really to talk about there. But
yeah,
in all honesty, it was bad. They didn't look good at all. The bullpen blew a lead. It was just not great. They didn't look prepared. And that was coming off a 6-1 homestand where they were playing great baseball. So it's hard to put too much stock into that since they were playing well going into that. I know there's a lot of ups and downs in baseball, but at the same time, there's also some concerning trends that we've kind of seen being built on. The starters haven't gone deep into games, which credit to the rookies. They did step up in the series. There are some poor bullpen decisions that we're probably going to get into, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to have questions about. And the offense was solid, but there's still some questions there. So they probably should have went 2-3 in the series at minimum, but they had to avoid a sweep today. So not really a series you want to look back on too often.
Sure. And yeah, Pinsanity, I got you. Yeah. Regular season doesn't all matter. It just, the pulse of the team matters. And it felt like coming, like Blake said, going off that, 6-1, that was from the All-Star break, I believe. And then rolling into this series, it felt that everything in terms of the injuries and kind of the weight of the team and the deadline looming, they needed something. And it just kind of all crashed at one time, all on top of itself in those two games. And like I said out there, with the status of the roster, it's just I was icing on the cake for Evan Phillips to blow that game with that massive lead. It just looked like they were going to have a comfy one. Robleski, love what we're seeing. We're going to go straight into today, though. Early game. Hope everybody got a chance to see it because it was really good stuff. You got to see offense from some couple different spots there, but absolutely, a dynamite performance from River Ryan. We're going to go straight through it. I'm going to do a rundown just in case anybody missed it. He opens up the game with back-to-back walks. Gets Yordan, fly out, immediate double play. Gets out of the first. It looked a little shaky, and I couldn't help but think about Dave Roberts, hoping that River Ryan was able to give him some length and give the bullpen a break and turn that over to Vesia, turn that over to Joe Kelly, and then Honeywell in a cleaner fashion. Second inning, gets 2 punch outs. Third inning, leadoff walk to Carantini. Then he goes strikeout, fly out, strikeout. And there's a trend going on here. He wrapped the day up, with 8 Ks, walks 3, goes in the fourth inning, bookend strikeouts between a 69-mile-an-hour pop out. So he's cruising. And what I really like from him is that you could see that he would, bring himself back in. And I was really happy that after that first inning, everything looked good. Like, was there anything that in the early half of the game, Blake, that really stood out to you?
He started out with kind of poor command, and I was a little worried that he'd kind of fall apart a little maybe and let the Astros take advantage of that. But he showed a lot of composure and really settled back in. He quickly got out of the inning, and then he went on just to kind of dominate. He didn't allow a hit through 4 innings. So, I mean, the stuff is just great. He has 5+ pitches that can all get hitters out. So I think that's what's made him so encouraging to the Dodgers, just that stuff there. But the composure that he showed in that game also, in a hostile environment on the road against a tough Astros team, to not let things kind of spiral out of control, that was huge.
Absolutely.
And that's something we don't see a lot from young pitchers too often. I think that's kind of the big problem we always talk about with Bobby Miller. When things start to go sideways for him, he really lets them spiral out of control, and he isn't able to control his emotions. But River Ryan is the opposite. Heavy. Yeah. So it was just really good to see that.
Absolutely. And it was great. On the broadcast, they kept talking about how, very complimentary of him in a 2-0 count. He's able to just, locate a backdoor slider and just toss one in there, make sure he lands something for a strike. I love the fact that the battery today, pitcher catcher battery really had a pulse of what was working. And that was very encouraging for me. It was veteran stuff from him. He's had 2 starts, but today was a really encouraging one because of those moments like that. Just like you said with Bobby Miller, there's times where things get away, you get fastball happy, and then the damage happens. That's where that damage happens. River Ryan only allowed 3 hard hit balls today. And then especially in spots, if you're saying someone has poor command, he's going to have to force himself back in the zone. But if he's only able to surrender 3 hard hit balls, definitely stuff was working. We're able to stay within himself. So all encouraging things. But the 5th inning, is a spot. I know all fans, guys, we're going to get in here. We got super chats. Appreciate everybody being here. 800 already. It's going to be a good show. Just recapping River Ryan right now, but 5th inning, he gives up a leadoff double to John Singleton, gets Jake Myers to ground out. Runner goes to third, Singleton on third, 1 out. At that point, the game's 1-0 Dodgers. All right. He gets Carantini to strike out, then gets Loperfido to strike out to end the threat. And you see him turn toward the center field, right in camera view, and he just roars. See him just scream. And that is just emotion. It doesn't matter where the team is at. It doesn't matter. We see it. We know that what's going on. Team knows they're in a tough bit. They're in a spot where guys are funny. In a spot where they need a boost. You need something. And that was a moment for River Ryan. He kept the game at 1-0. And just like I said about Robleski, Joe Davis said the same thing. Kid's got moxie, man. He's got absolute moxie. So I love what he brought in that 5th inning there. I know everybody loved it too. Real quick, we're going to get into these. John, thanks for the super chat, man. If you have a question or anything, toss it in the second one. But if you have another one, pop it in there. We'll read that. But you have a second here. Would I include Miller and Vargas in the trade? I think let me backlog that for 1 second. I'm going to pull it back up in a minute. I just want to let you know we see you. Appreciate you. Thanks for the $15. But Dave sends him back out for the 6th. Was that surprising to you at all?
No, because the state of the bullpen, Alex Vesia and Joe Kelly were the only high leverage guys available going into the game. And they really needed some length out of River Ryan today. And he was cruising pretty much up until that point. You had all the confidence in him. And then we get into that 6th inning and things go a little haywire there.
Yep. So, we go into the 6th inning, 3rd time through the order. At that point, this is following Gavin Lux's 2-run homer. Shout out to Gavin Lux, 09. 3-0 lead, gives up a leadoff missile double to Jose Altuve. Bregman flies out to center. He gets Yordan to fly out again on a nice slide piece. I think it's the 4th pitch of the at-bat. 2 outs. Dave pulls him, First pitch, Alex Vesia gives up a 2-run homer to Yainer Diaz. At that moment, what was the first thing you thought? Chat, you can let it rip. Go ahead. What's the first thing that came to your mind about Dave? Keep it tight. Nothing crazy, guys. But let me know.
I was thinking, like, what is he doing? So after the game yesterday, when he took out Wroblewski in the same inning, after getting Yordan with 2 outs in the 6th inning, and then the bullpen ends up blowing the game. After the game, Dave Roberts said, yeah, that was a mistake by me. I took out the pitcher too early. I gave the Astros the momentum, and it ended up costing us the game. And then he went on to say, our bullpen is incredibly taxed and overworked. So, like, if you connect those two things together, it just doesn't make sense. But he said, I take the blame for that. That was my mistake. And then he does the same exact thing. Same exact situation. 2 outs, 6th inning after getting Yordan. You go to the bullpen and immediately a 2-run homer. And I'm just thinking, like, that is one of the worst managerial decisions I can ever recall. Like, I defend a lot of what Dave Roberts does overall, but that was questionable, very questionable, considering all he said the day before. And also, you let the righty face Yordan, who's a lefty, and then bring in a lefty to face the righty, who's a far worse hitter than the lefty who is just up. So you're already short on relievers. I just don't get the logic there at all. I mean, I thought they were going to lose at that point. I was like, it's going to happen again. And how is Dave going to come out and defend this one after? He's going to give his "it just didn't work out" speech at the end of the game. But, like, that was just a baffling decision.
Yeah, and Yainer Diaz, it's pretty even splits, left, right. It was just pretty, it was baffling. I really couldn't believe it. And I know the talk about River Ryan approaching, he was already in essentially probably the front office. Like, I had a conversation with someone on Twitter that, they probably had a predetermined spot in the inning, like a predetermined pitch count, a kind of an area there, and maybe saying, this is the last hitter. But with where his stuff was at, the lead in the game, he didn't look in trouble. You just went through the top 3 of the order. It felt like he had it all in control. And it's just funny. It's frustratingly funny that Dave does that yesterday, does it today, and it blows up in his face again. And thankfully, the offense came to save the day and give a little bit of a cushion there, because it could have gone really south really quick. And then the only thing, it would have been even worse. I said this morning, I just need them to salvage it and avoid the sweep. Friedman wake up, and then we talk about it. We'll get on here. We'll get home. We'll have a good conversation about everything. And it's just remarkable, the timing of that. Yesterday, flash forward to today. So at that point, Vesia gives up the two-run shot. Dodgers, Astros go quietly in the 7th. Vesia is back out there and goes 1-2-3. 8th inning, Teoscar leads off with a bullet homer to left, his 22nd of the year. And you know me with Teoscar. At multiple points, he's come up. He's had big spots. That was a big homer for him. That was a big homer for the team, right?
Yeah, I think so. And thankfully, being in a Minute Maid Park out there probably helped him a bit. That baby stadium, as it's been called, with the Crawford boxes out there and left. So
something
worked out for them either way. And Teoscar got on the board with another homer. Home run derby has not ruined his swing, so that's a good thing. So, yeah, Teoscar's just been great.
And Kevin Biggio looked great. They had another run with him, on a RBI single from Kevin Biggio, and with Gavin Lux scores there. Shout out to him, and shout out to the 1,000 in here. We appreciate you guys. It's just, in a nutshell, what the offense can be and how productive they can be when guys are on base, and you just provide, so many more opportunities, not just for the top of the order, but for the bottom half, where pitchers have to pitch a different way. There's a lot of patience right now with this Dodgers lineup. It's just a matter of executing. Gavin Lux is doing a terrific job of it. 3 walks today. He goes 1 for 2, 3 walks there. Just some really great stuff. I don't know how much Kevin Biggio factors into the long term past, the deadline, because they're exploring a couple names that could supplant him and add some versatility to the roster. But it's good that we're seeing these opportunities come from different spots. James Outman adds a homer earlier in the game. We didn't mention that. He kind of got, I'm not going to say lucky with one, because a homer is a homer. It had an expected batting average, I think, 0.80, but Crawford boxes. That's how it goes. That's ball. You do what you can. Runs a run. Joe Kelly works around a 1-out double in the bottom half of the 8th. Push on from there. At Insurance running the ninth. Brent Honeywell shuts the door, who's been phenomenal in a Dodgers uniform. So final line with River Ryan, he goes 5 2/3, allows 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, registers 14 whiffs. He has a 29% called strike and swing percentage. Only allows 3 hard hit balls. Final thoughts on River Ryan. Where is he at for you right now, man?
Top of their rotation.
Crazy, right?
It's hard to argue with his results so far. And it's not just like he kind of came out from nowhere. He has the pedigree. And we've kind of known for a while that River Ryan was probably going to be a good pitcher. But I think he's come up and really impressed even more quickly than anyone would have thought. And we'll see if he can sustain it. But he has the swing and miss stuff that the pitching staff doesn't really have outside of Tyler Glasnow. So I think he might be a big part of the rotation moving forward. And I mean, I don't want to say they're not going to go get a big name starting pitcher or something, but if they don't, we can maybe take some solace in the fact that River Ryan is here pitching well now, and he looks the part. He looks like he has the elite stuff to pitch at the top of a rotation. And that's not to say they shouldn't go get another pitcher, because they absolutely should. But River Ryan looks legit is the main point there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that, I've got to pull this up here. I need to pull it up. I forgot what his name is, but he puts these charts out. I really got to do it. Buy me like 15 seconds, if that. 10 seconds, man. Give me 10 seconds.
So do we have any questions in the chat?
Nope, I got it right here. Thomas Nestico. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but he's been terrific. TJ Stats on Twitter. Give him a follow, please, at TJ Stats. He put out a chart about River Ryan. River Ryan today, his 4-seam slider, curveball, sinker, changeup, and his cutter all graded out as above average pitches. So we're talking about a kid that the Dodgers got for Matt Beatty and turned into an arm that you got to see today absolutely shove with moxie, with fire and performance, and didn't go outside of himself even when it looked like it could go south. So he's willing to, his all 6 pitches weren't used heavily. I think it's his cutter that was used the least. I think he just threw a couple of them, but it's the fact that right now the Dodgers have a pitcher that they just brought up, 2 outings. He looks terrific so far, who's got 6 big league pitches.
Yeah. I mean, he's been phenomenal so far. Can't ask for much more from him besides maybe that out in the 6th inning, but Dave won't let him do that apparently. So hopefully his next outing he can get there. But yeah, it's been really encouraging to see. And even if they go get a Jack Flaherty or Garrett Crochet type pitcher, I think River Ryan is pretty safe to stay in their rotation moving forward, because he just keeps earning it, and he could potentially be one of their starters in the postseason.
The way it keeps going, Dodgers have I think I forgot who I was having the conversation with. It might have been Daniel Starkan, it might have been you, might have been Matt, that I was, kind of wondering that, Chris, you're funny. It might have been, either of them. Is this the best year for young pitchers? Like that just, it didn't come out of nowhere, but that stepped into the major leagues, Landon Knack, Robleski, Gavin Stone, rebound year, River Ryan, where they come up, and it just looks like the Dodgers are onto something right now. Like this came at a time, just imagine, chat, everybody imagine, shout out to the 1100. We appreciate you. Just imagine if the performance of these guys, these rookies, didn't happen right now. Imagine if they were just getting such worse production, just guys to fill innings, not actually provide you with, above average or elite innings.
Yeah. I mean, they'd probably be in 2nd or 3rd place at this point. They've desperately needed these pitchers to step up, and they have. And last year, we kind of saw the same thing happen to the Dodgers, where they lost a lot of their starters and dealt with a lot of injuries and production issues. And they didn't have these rookies who stepped up. So they had to go get like Lance Lynn to help fill in these innings. And it just wasn't great for them. But this year, it's been a lot better. They've definitely had some ups and downs in the rotation still, and that's to be expected, especially with a group that has such young pitchers. But
yes,
they've been really valuable. And Dave Roberts did talk about this during the last homestand. He was asked, like, how valuable have they been? And he said, if you put all the rookies into like one group, they would get first place MVP votes of this Dodger club. And that's a club with Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Tyler Glasnow. Like, it's loaded with star power. And these rookies have been some of their most valuable players. So it's been invaluable for them.
Yeah. And it just, given where the starting rotation is at and given where the bullpen is at, I'm not sure if these were, I'd have to pull it up if these numbers were prior to today's game or following the article that Borelli put out earlier today about the bullpen logging 412 and a third innings, which ranks fourth behind the Giants, Brewers, and the Marlins. And how, earlier in the year, I spoke about that I had confidence in the bullpen. But my biggest worry was about the amount of veteran arms they have, and if the miles are going to be too much. I had no issues with their production and their philosophy that's showing in different spots in terms of their rookies, in their DFA pickups, waiver wire guys that have stepped right in. Anthony Banda has been good. Yoran Ramirez has blown up lately, but for a stretch he was solid. The philosophy that's going on. How impactful are these rookie starters going to be for the bullpen? If, I'm going to say if, I know they will, when they get to a point where Dave and the front office feel comfortable with them, getting them through 6. How big is that?
For the bullpen specifically, I think it would be huge because the bullpen is definitely overworked right now. And I think a lot of their struggles have been due to that reasoning. Mm-hmm. They're being asked to cover 5 innings a night a lot of times, and it's just not sustainable. We saw this problem with them last year where their starting rotation just wasn't going deep into games, and it was really taxing the bullpen. And we kept talking about how are they going to fix the bullpen? It's the number one problem with this team. What are they doing? They need to go get 5 different relievers to fix the bullpen. But then you saw as the starters started to go deeper into games, it allowed their relievers to settle into specific roles. They didn't have to get overused, and they got comfortable in their roles. And the bullpen just took off from there, and they were probably the best bullpen in baseball from that point on. And I think you're going to kind of see that this year. Early in the year, the starters were great, and so was the bullpen. Now we've seen the starters tail off a bit more, and so is the bullpen. So I think those two things are connected a lot. And if the pitchers can keep going deeper into games, I think it's just going to benefit the whole team a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to, I'd like to transition here because we haven't had a chance to talk about it. And maybe we'll get into it. I want to get into a little bit of Evan Phillips with you and a little bit of Alex Vesia because, his stuff was down today and it was noticeable from pitch 1. His fastball was down a few ticks. It was down 2.5 miles an hour today. Everything across the board, changeup down, slider down. He was able to, work himself to get 4 outs. It cost him, 1 big swing. Any concern with Vesia? Do you think I'm not going to ask you to be doctor. I'm not going to say, Blake, put the doctor hat on and tell me, is something hurt? Or do you think this is just a spot where, maybe it was just the day, maybe there's some fatigue going on? Any reason to worry?
I think there is reason to worry. My optimism would be Alex Vesia is a guy who's been very inconsistent throughout his career. Some months he's been like the best reliever in baseball, and then the next month he can't find an out. And maybe that's what's going on with him, but he usually tends to bounce back from those stretches there. He's just a very inconsistent arm. The concerning part to me was his velocity was down pretty significantly today. He was sitting like 89 to 91 instead of the 93 to 95 he normally sits. And whenever you lose velocity like that, it's a huge concern. Could be related to the overwork we were just talking about. He's thrown a lot of innings and he's been relied on a lot. But on the other hand, like that's still a pretty significant drop. And usually those are coupled with injuries, and hopefully it's just something that passes for him. But I mean, it's hard not to be concerned when you're watching him see a velo drop like that and not getting performance. It's just not an ideal situation for them.
Where do you stand on giving Vesia, like, what Dave says, a blow? Where do you stand on them, finding somewhere for him, an injury, an IL spot, maybe a trip down to, AAA, wherever they have a roster spot, and then letting him get a breather?
They probably need to, and I think it would be beneficial. But the other thing would be like, who do you call up at that point? Like Michael Peterson is probably the main guy on their 40-man roster who they call up, and he's not all that great. And then you're just losing another high leverage arm you have in your bullpen. So it might have to come after the trade deadline. Hopefully they go get a reliever who can kind of take some of that pressure off them. But yeah, he probably needs a break or figure out something. It's just, they don't have a lot of healthy options at this point either.
Orlando brings up a good point. He just had a break during the All-Star break, but Yvessi has a lot of usage. He's some very high leverage innings, high effort guy. GI Nick Ramirez, scary thought. Absolutely. There's a couple options they could, dive into. I don't necessarily know, who's on the cusp. I don't know about John Rooney going that route. Maybe it's a trade. Maybe they find something in there, but then everything gets pushed down the thing. Huh?
Throw Robleski in the bullpen when they add another starter. And
I love Robleski, man. I love what he brings. He stays in the zone. That's something for a reliever that's terrific. He's not afraid. We saw it from his first outing. You're going to give up, bring up Grove. Yeah, it's possible. Where are we at on Grove again?
Grove is in a rehab assignment right now. He's expected to go about 5 to 7 games, and I think he's thrown 2 or 3 to this point. So soon, but still got a few more outings to go.
A little bit to go. But I like the idea. I like the idea of Robo going into the bullpen down the stretch. Big arm there. And the Dodgers need to fill their, bullpen with a lot of that. I'm excited for Brusdar to make his way back. Hopefully his road back is clean and he finds it there, because I think that after Bobby Miller, I saw the box score. I think the bullpen, I think it might have been Michael Grove in there, Brazier, and somebody else is mixed in there. I got to pull it up, but it was just a clean slate after Bobby Miller. So they're definitely got, bullpen arms rehabbing right now that are making their way back and having positive stuff. No hiccups injury wise. But we have to talk about Evan Phillips. I know you've kept me in check about him for a while. It's kind of a sobering thought for the number of years and understanding how good he's been. Implosion outing on Saturday. Cost them the game, essentially. Where are the Dodgers at on him? Because they were quick. I'm not going to say quick to just demote him immediately, but I think they found a more comfortable spot for him to maybe work through something. Just like you said, you were like, you don't think they're going to, put him in AAA or get him out of there. It might be finding a more comfortable spot in the game for him to work through this instead of pulling him off the major league roster. So I credit you there. You were on top of that. What are you seeing immediately with him?
It's not been great. I mean, obviously that's the results are showing that. I think his last outing, there was a lot of bad luck in there, and that really hurt him a lot. And part of that is due to the concern he's not missing bats right now. You can deal with some bad luck when you're not missing bats, or when you're missing bats, but when you're not missing bats, you really have to have your luck with you. And in that inning where he blew up and allowed 4 straight hits and 4 runs or whatever it was, all the balls he was giving up as hits were weakly hit balls, except for the first one, which didn't qualify as a hard hit ball, but it was like 0.3 miles per hour away from being one. So we'll call it a hard hit ball. So in the 4 batters he faced, he gave up 3 weak hits and 1 hard hit ball. And most of the time, those are all going to be outs. I mean, the 2 middle hits he gave up were both below 70 miles per hour. One was a bunt dribbler that maybe a different third baseman makes a play and you're out of the inning, and we're not talking about this. But for Phillips, they all just dropped in. One dropped right in front of Teoscar. He wasn't able to make the play. And those are just unfortunate things. So I think we do have to consider that context, as he had a lot of unluck in that outing there. On the other hand, he wasn't missing bats. And as a high leverage arm, you definitely need to miss bats. I think some relievers can kind of live with that. Like Brusdar isn't a guy who misses a lot of bats. He gets weak contact and ground balls, and he's been really successful. Gavin Stone as a starter, kind of the same way. But Evan Phillips isn't a ground ball pitcher as much. He's more of a fly ball guy. And when you give up weak contact, you allow a lot of balls in play, it's not going to go well, even if they tend to be weak contact. So there's concerns there. The Dodgers have said they're looking into what's going on with him and trying to figure it out, get him back on track. The main thing I've seen is it's his cutter that isn't effective. The slider has been great. The fastball has been pretty good so far, but that cutter, it's just not allowing him to get lefties out. And their opposing hitters are basically batting like they're Shohei Ohtani against his cutter. So maybe it's just a tweak where you end up dropping that and try and work in a changeup to help get lefties out or something like that. But I think there is a reason for optimism and reason for concern with Evan Phillips. So it's just they need to figure out what's going on and make the adjustment.
Yeah, since, the piece I wrote today, I'm not sure when that one's coming out about Evan Phillips and his, what's going on with him. But since the 30th of June, he's got an ERA in the 11s. But his, an 8.45 FIP in that stretch. And we're talking, how many innings is this? 8 2/3. So not a crazy sample. But just like you said, he's not missing bats. And contact is contact. They're getting bat on ball to a point where it's dropping in. And we've seen this with, pitchers before. I think even Kenley Jansen went through a bout of something like this where it wasn't working out. He was giving up a lot of contact and just wasn't getting it done. And I've highlighted it many times that he's been ineffective against lefties. We've seen Dave stick with or, go with Daniel Hudson in spots where, whether that was the better call, whether that was just for what the game plan, or he was just up and ready to go. There's been times where even myself, knowing the struggles that Evan Phillips has had versus lefties, that I would prefer Daniel Hudson out there, somebody else. But it's definitely something that I hope they figure out soon, because Evan Phillips for the last few years has been one of the best relievers in Major League Baseball. So there's definitely something right now that has to be diagnosed with him. And it's reason for concern heading into the deadline that, are the Dodgers going to be a team that's in with Tanner Scott on an expiring deal? Are you going to be that team that ponies up for a rental reliever and doing something that Andrew Friedman just really hasn't done in the past? So that's something to keep in mind here. Anything else? We got one more super chat I want to get to here. And John, same thing before we get into trade talk. But Jonathan Montgomery, appreciate you, man. Thanks for the $5. Remember in 2023 when Roberts would leave rookies out to eat innings like Sheehan against the Rangers, Michael Grove against the Reds? Why not here when the pen needs protection? I thought the same thing when they immediately pulled him out. When I saw him come out of the dugout, I was like, proud of my mind, what I thought in the first inning, that he needs to go deep into this game because the bullpen needs it. And the last thing I want to do is have someone come in for an out, sit down, have an up down, and then go back out for 3 outs. That's something I was like, they're not doing this. And he did it. So it was perplexing. Yeah. So I do remember that. Anything else? Anything? I know we spoke about it earlier, but any final thoughts or a recap on that, kind of what Dave did today, last 2 days?
I mean, it was perplexing. I think the difference is last year, they didn't really see Grove and Sheehan as potentially part of their postseason rotation. And this year, River Ryan and Gavin Stone might be, so they're being a little more protective of them. Same with Wroblewski. He could be a piece down the line. I think Sheehan definitely had a lot more upside last year, but he was still pretty inconsistent. And you don't want to burn out their confidence or arms or anything like that. So kind of different situations with them. But with all the injuries they have this year, I can see why they're trying to be more cautious with some of their pitchers. It's just, it hasn't stopped injuries either way with how they're managing their pitching staff. So I don't think a few more pitches would hurt either way.
Yeah, I know they highlighted it, and that's something that I was like, okay. I'm like understanding how they are and the Dodgers are and knowing where they're at. And that River Ryan was past his career high in pitches. He hadn't, I don't think he'd thrown a pitch into the 6th. And I thought to myself, okay, I guess. So that's how it felt to me when he went out there, pulled him out, and it was just even worse when Vesia gave up the immediate 2-run shot that thankfully didn't flip the game, put the Astros tied or ahead. That was a big thing. We're going to get to everybody's favorite thing. We've got a lot of trade rumors to talk about. There's a ton that's coming out. We're going to do some recaps here about, Isaac Paredes, Randy Arozarena broke my heart. Dodgers didn't nab him. Mariners really, jumped out on that bucket. But we're going to jump straight into, Isaac Paredes. Blake,
wait,
is that what you want to go? Yeah, go ahead.
Did we get to John's super chat about trading Miller and Vargas? I think we're going to bring it back up. Yeah, I think we're going to bring it back up, but then
go ahead. So, yeah. Put a both.
Would you include Miller and Vargas in a trade?
Yes, absolutely. For the right one, for sure. I right now. What is the ceiling for a Bobby? Which deal, current rumored deal out there, player out there, who you would include Bobby Miller for?
I think I'd do it in a deal for Crochet and Robert, but I'd probably not do it for just one of them. It's tough. I still believe in Miller's upside. I mean, the stuff is great. He just hasn't figured it out this year, but I mean, we've seen stretches where pitchers just don't have any idea what's going on, and then they turn it around. I think last year with Gavin Stone is a really good example of that. He was a 9 ERA guy or something like that, and this year he's been one of their most valuable starters. And I think Miller has the stuff definitely needed to turn it around. It might just be he needs some more maturity and growing the mental side of his game, but I would be hesitant to trade him. Vargas, on the other hand, his defense makes it tough to fit him into the lineup. I still believe in the bat with an everyday role. It's just, I don't know where he's going to play. He looks completely lost in left field all the time. He's not a good third baseman. He was fine at second, but now you have Gavin Lux there, and Mookie Betts is probably your best option there as well. So it just makes it tough to fit him onto the team, and it might be better for both sides if they did end up moving on from him. So I wouldn't hate it if they did it.
Yeah. And I see people talking screwball in the chat. I never thought that was a possibility. Like, I absolutely never did. Like, for what it would take to get that, I never really thought there was a deal the Dodgers could put together to land that. And it wouldn't be like, oh my God, like that seems like way too much. So I never thought, Jonathan, again, John, thanks for the super chat, Jonathan. I know you're talking schoolball, and everybody, I never thought that was a possibility. And I think a lot of people, once you dug into it and the package it would take, and for the major league talent you'd have to send back, it just wouldn't happen. Kira, yeah, I don't think there's been any word on him. I think the Phillies, like, they had the most competitive package, and they opted to go elsewhere. I don't know if the Phillies bullpen was in a tough shape, just like the Dodgers. They've had the same type of struggles, same type of stuff the Dodgers have been. I think the Phillies have had the worst bullpen ERA in the last month. I think in the month of July, they're last in Major League Baseball. Dodgers are 28th or 27th. So same type of thing. And Phillies made a move for Carlos Estevez from the Angels to kind of shore up that back end, to push everybody down and give them some length. So I think if any team was going to do it, it was going to be the Phillies. And there's a reason why we're not hearing about it. We're not seeing it. But there is one comment here. What's up, Bob? Trade rumors are one of the best things about being a fan of Major League Baseball on the deadline. So we're going to do this all night long. It's the best. It's why we're here. All right.
I agree.
Let's do it. Yeah, it's the best. So, Bob, we're going to be here. I want you to be here too. Everybody does. Shout out to the 1500. Isaac Paredes. This is someone that Blake, had a couple conversations about. And I've seen a lot of Dodger fans and a lot of fans around Major League Baseball advocating to bring them to their team. This is a trade that they did with the Cubs. The Dodgers made pursued Isaac Paredes and Randy. But I want to go bit by bit. The deal with the Cubs, I feel like they got an awesome trade value for sending Christopher Morel, 2 prospects back to the Rays to get Paredes. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I thought it was one of the rare trades where I didn't really understand what the Rays were doing there. Mm-hmm. Usually you can find some intriguing things with their deals, but Isaac Paredes is a really good player. I know a lot of people like to post the Baseball Savant page and say he's not that good, he's due for regression, but it's been 2 years now where he's been a really, really good hitter, and I don't think that's going to change. The things he does well doesn't show up on his Savant page. He's an extremely pull-happy hitter, and he pulls everything in the air, which is going to get you a lot of home runs, even if you're not consistently hitting the ball hard all the time. He doesn't strike out a ton, and he takes his walks. So, that's an ideal player to have in your lineup, in my opinion. And I think he would have been a great fit for any team who acquired him. And I don't really know why the Rays traded him away with a few years of control. I'm not huge on Christopher Morel. He strikes out too much, and he's just not a very good player, in my opinion. The defense isn't great either. It's probably closer to bad than average. So just didn't make sense for me. I think the Rays would have been better off with Paredes, and I think he would have been a great fit for the Dodgers, even if they weren't the most likely team to land him. Yeah, I agree. And for the Dodgers with again, the word is, I forgot who put that out, but the inaction and I think they said the word was from Dave was stagnant progress in Max Muncy's rehab is very concerning. And that the Dodgers, if they're able to, secure someone to kind of shift some stuff around the infield,
give them some more options, down the stretch, and someone that provides versatility. Now, third base is something that they definitely should pursue if they can, and go from there. But Randy Arozarena is another one that there were some rumblings, him connected to the Dodgers, checking in on him and what it would take. And Tampa Bay traded him to the Mariners in a deal that I thought, it's people are looking at prospect rankings and going from there. It's more about what do the teams like out of the prospects? And I felt it was an okay trade. Like it was fine. Like I when you look at the projections of what they gave up for what they got back, and they got Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins. He's a right-hander, and a player to be named later. I thought it was an okay deal for both teams. I really did. I didn't think, the Rays, got fleeced. I don't think the Mariners overpaid. I thought it was just a good contract or a good trade for both. And it's something that you've said that the Dodgers didn't necessarily need a corner outfielder because center fielder is kind of the biggest thing. Is that still correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think Andy Paredes is a center fielder. I have doubts about their ability to go deep in the playoffs if he's their everyday center fielder out there, just because of the defense aspect of it. I think he would be a great platoon fit in right field with Jason Hayward. Then you have Teo in left field and your everyday center fielder out there. I think that would be a great outfield. So if you absolutely had to upgrade your outfield by going with a corner guy, you could probably talk me into it. But then you're also pushing Jason Hayward out of there, who has probably been your only competent platoon player on the bench this year. So it's not really an ideal scenario there. But center field, I think, might be the weakest position on the team right now. And
yeah,
I do feel that's something they badly need to address.
I definitely agree with you. Yeah, Jake, I'll check that out. We'll chat. Yeah, Matty Man, put Mookie in center. I don't know about that. I don't know how open to stuff they are like that. But I agree with you. And I see a lot of people, TQT, Hayward's a fourth outfielder. Perfect platoons. Ray, Alman's better defensive. Sure. We all know, this is stuff that we've talked about, that they just need to find some uptick in offense, in some proper platoon for Pajes, some proper platoon for Hayward. Because right now you're staring at two spots where you just have to do it. They don't believe in Vargas. Vargas, his fall off. He hasn't earned an everyday spot. As much as that we would like him to take that, he looks very bad defensively. Left field is a whirlwind for him, and it's something that I don't think that they're very keen on. So those are two names: Isaac Paredes, Randy. Dodgers didn't bite on, didn't factor into their plans, or they didn't match a deal that the Rays liked, and the Mariners and the Cubs kind of beat them out. And go from there. So we're going to go into a couple more, names that Dodgers have been connected to, and Tommy Edman. Luis Rengifo, somebody that you've liked, Nico Hoerner, and Tommy Edman, which that, traction has sparked up a lot tonight. And I was joking in my mind that Friedman's waking up. Avoided the sweep. Friedman woke up. This is my step 2 of the day. He's still got time. I saw some people recklessly put out there that Friedman punted the deadline. Looking at it from a broad view, teams have already kind of jumped. And how much are those big names going to move? How much is Crochet going to move, with his kind of demands? But from this crop of names, who do you like the best? And what do you think, of the latest stuff with Tommy Edman?
I definitely like Rengifo the best of this list. I think he's the best player on there, probably by far. Nico Hoerner is probably my least favorite on that list. I don't think he's all that good of a player. Probably about league average as a second baseman, which you already have Gavin Lux there. Like, if you plan on playing him at shortstop, that's a different thing, but still don't think he's that great of a player. Rengifo can kick around and play everywhere, so he's having a breakout year. I really like that aspect of it, and he's a guy they've targeted in the past. He was, of course, part of that famed trade that never happened with Andy Pajes, Ross Stripling, and Jock Peterson, and Taylor Ward, but that's neither here nor there now, and he's still an Angel, so the Dodgers could still use him. But Tommy Edman is the one who's like the most popular name right now because that's where all the reports have been, and he hasn't played this year. He's been dealing with a wrist injury, and in the past he's been a solid but unspectacular player, just kind of one of those annoying, gritty types who you kind of hate to play against, but like to have him on your team type player.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a huge offensive threat, but he's a competent enough hitter. And I think if they got him, I'd be happy. If it's like as their bench role guy, they need an upgrade on their bench from Kike or Biggio or whoever they decide to replace. So if that's the route they go and Tommy Edman is just like their backup infielder, sure, great, I'm happy with it. If Tommy Edman is their answer at third base or center field or something like that, then I'd have some real questions about their plan and what they're actually doing. So that's kind of where I stand on those three. If Rengifo's an option, do that one. But Artie Moreno is going to make that tough.
Yeah, I think that it's something to be said about Edman not playing this year in a risk deal. That's something that you always have to be kind of, have a pause and look at it. How is the rehab? Was it good? Were there any hiccups? How do the medicals look? Because he's a big time plus defender. And that's something that the Dodgers value. He's, last year he played second, short, center, right field. Most of his time coming at shortstop, second base, and center field. That sounds a lot like something that I would like the Dodgers to do, if that's possible. Take a flyer on him if they want to offload that. He's got control, but I'm also in agreements that I don't want that to be their second move. That should be their third, fourth option in a line of trades again. I'm not saying like don't do that if I would like them to be on two more deals or two more players to bring in addition to Tommy Edman, because I'm intrigued by it. It's just about raising the floor. And that's something that I think that the Dodgers definitely need to do. Blake, what hat do you have on today?
This is the Dodger reversible bucket hat one. I just turned it around, so you only see like the little logos here. But
what's on the other one? The big logo?
It says Dodgers in script on the back of it right now. And then if you flip it, it's just a blue LA bucket hat.
I like it.
Thanks.
Shout out to Bucket Hat Blake, man. Shout out to BB. 17:35 in here. What's up, everybody? There's a lot of time left to the deadline. I think that there's enough. I think Friedman's, stretching his arms, taking deep breaths. Mike, why do you say this? Punting the deadline. Like, I don't like.
I haven't heard that at all from any of the beat writers. Like,
toss it in there, Mike. We'll check it out. But until they do, like, what do you want me to sit here and talk about the inaction?
I will note there's an article that just came out before we started the show from Fine Sand saying NL executives expect a lot of deals to come in the next 2 days. Teams have really high asking prices, and then they're going to start to get more realistic. And also, a lot of teams are looking for the top targets on their boards. And then when those guys are gone, then they move to their second, third, fourth options. And that's when you just see a flurry of deals start to come in. I think every year we talk, like, we're all waiting for the trade deadline to come, and it's really slow leading up to it. And then you see like 2 or 3 big deals start to come in, and they all just start flowing through. I think we're going to see that similar, like, just got to be a little patient. If they don't make trades, we'll come back here and we'll complain and we'll tell you how terrible their deadline was and how much they messed up and are punting this year. But there's still time to make trades. Let's give them a chance to do it before we complain about them not doing anything.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm going to be, Friedman has done it multiple times. Didn't last year, but it's a spot where from my point of view and what we all see is there's enough of a need on the roster to get some outside help. And I think that Friedman is more privy to information we don't know about, and he sees exactly what we do. Gomes is just the tough listen because he talks about just a lot of, being opportunistic and stuff like that, yada, yada. And that stuff is tough to hear. And that doesn't instill a lot of confidence that things will happen. But again, I think it was, Jim Bowden put out, again, the Dodgers are looking for impact guys. My only worry with that and hope is that if the impact isn't there, are they still going to find impact on the secondary level players that are out there instead of just saying, okay, we couldn't get the high end piece. Now we're just going to get nothing. And that's something that, guys, I am still concerned about. So it's not that I'm like, okay, they're not, just hold on. The big move will click. It's that I hope they have a secondary thing.
They're getting Tommy Edman.
A big bat.
That's
that league average WRC plus.
Yeah, for sure.
Roy, Tommy Edman is a utility guy from the Cardinals. He's 29, switch hitter, elite defensively.
He was a
elite
5-win guy in 2022. I know that's 2 years ago now, but there's upside there. That was his best year by far, but he's not like, it's not going to Kevin Biggio. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll definitely be more of that. Okay, so we'll transition. We'll go to Garrett Crochet. Reportedly, the Dodgers are not, phased by Garrett Crochet's kind of his demands. Can you enlighten everybody a little bit on what those are, Blake?
Yeah, so with Crochet, the biggest concern with him is from acquiring teams that this is his first year starting. He had Tommy John surgery, and this is his first full year back from it, and he's going to be limited innings-wise. So there's a lot of talk that maybe you move him to the bullpen and kind of manage his innings that way. Crochet said, no, that's not happening. I'm going to stay a starter for the rest of the year. And then he also said, well, it was reported through his agents, essentially. He didn't come out and actually say it. He declined to comment. So let's clarify that. But it was reported that if he's going to pitch in the postseason, he wants a contract extension tied in with that, which you can debate and discuss all that of what it means for Crochet and if he's being selfish or trying to get his fair value and all that. For the Dodgers standpoint, they're reportedly not fazed by that at all, and they still have him as their top target. So I think that's an interesting development, because when those reports came out about his demands, it was a lot of, well, now he's not going to get traded. It's going to scare teams away. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 2 days, essentially, with Crochet, and if the Dodgers or any team can get a deal done. But I will say it probably decreased the odds of a trade a bit, just because the White Sox are losing some leverage now and they might be hesitant. But if the Dodgers are still willing to pay up and get a deal done, I think it's a possibility, and it seems like it is for them too.
Yeah, we'll get to the super chats, guys. Ivan, John, we see you guys. I'll be right there. I just want to wrap this one up. But Garrett Crochet, I saw people talking about it. He didn't pitch well today. He went 3 innings, allowed 6 hits, 3 earned runs. I think a couple errors from Paul DeJong extended that a bit. So I don't know if it looked as bad as it was. I didn't watch the game, but just from what I'm seeing, that'll be his last outing before the trade deadline. And then we'll know if he's going to stick, because those are some pretty, I'm not going to say inflammatory things, but, pretty hefty kind of demand from a player and their agent saying, what they expect or what they would like, heading into the deadline, with the understanding that the team would like to move him. And that's a tough spot to be in. But Ivan, thanks, man. Appreciate the $2. Shout out to the 1,800 in here. Thanks, everybody. How much does the Dodgers tax affect any decisions? Where do you stand on the Dodgers tax?
I don't believe in it at all. And I know you talked to me about this earlier today, and we kind of discussed a little back and forth on it. I think it's just a lot of fans kind of tend to overvalue their own prospects and undervalue other teams' prospects. So when a team ends up trading, you're saying, well, our prospects were better and they must have wanted more from the Dodgers. I don't think teams operate that way. They don't really care. They're trying to make the best decisions for the future of their franchise. And every team and every front office is going to evaluate prospects differently. Even within their own front offices, they have debates about what prospects they like more and what they should do. There's no exact science for predicting prospects, so there's always going to be variance involved in it. And sometimes your prospects just aren't the ones that the other team likes and aren't enough to get it done. I'd say the Dodgers have ended up winning most of the big trades they make. When they went out and got Yu Darvish, they traded Willie Calhoun. Didn't turn out to anything. I don't think anyone's upset about trading Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. There's no Dodger tax there. It worked out really well for them. The Machado one, Yusniel Diaz was the top player in that trade, and I think Dean Kremer is the only one still in the major leagues, and he's like a 5th starter essentially. So it's just how it goes. Sometimes your prospects are going to be the ones the other team wants, and sometimes they're not. And I don't think anyone's saying, oh, well, you have Shohei Ohtani and you're the Dodgers, so give us all your players. Every team, they're going to ask for the highest ranked prospects. You can go to any team, any trade discussions with the Orioles is going to be well, how about Jackson Holiday? It's not because there's an Orioles tax. It's because they want that player because he's a good player. And that's kind of what we see with the Dodgers as well.
Yeah, Hep. I mean, you're saying exactly our thing. They found out the prospects suck. That's, I'm not saying, okay, Dodgers prospects suck, but it's from a standpoint that they're looking at, players, like prospects, and how they project, and if they find value in that. I don't necessarily saying unless it's in division or like a rival or stuff like that. Trading within division is tough, but I don't think teams are saying we're not trading with the Dodgers unless you're Artie Moreno. I think he's just out until I see something happen. I think that's kind of it. But I don't think the Dodgers, get taxed extra just because they have, big pocketbook. I don't think Guggenheim has scared other teams away from wanting prospects within. It's just a matter of what do teams like those players? Do they match up? And so answer to the question there. So, shout out to the super chat, Ivan. Thank you. I don't think there's a Dodgers tax that matters I would say in 95% of trades that the Dodgers make. One more here. Jonathan Montgomery. We got one more after that. That's a good one. Who's back from IL first? Tommy Edman or Danny Duffy?
Edman, because he's already in his rehab assignment. And is Danny Duffy ever going to pitch? Have we even confirmed Danny Duffy's a real person? We may never know.
He'd be appearing alongside of us on a Dodgers food chat before he takes a mound. So I'm going to say Tommy Edman. We got one more here. Todd Garman. Thanks for the super chat, man. Thanks for the $10. Here's your Todd's prediction, not mine. Not mine. So we know. Dodgers get Garrett Crochet, Luis Robert Jr., Jack Flaherty, Tommy Edman. Dodgers are giving up Gavin Stone, Dalton Rushing, Miguel Vargas, and Andy Paez, plus another mix of prospects. I saw you guys talking about this in the chat. Anybody want to take that bet? Blake, you want to take that bet?
I'm going to take against that bet that they're not getting all of them. I think they get one of Crochet and Flaherty. If the Dodgers get Crochet, Flaherty's going somewhere else. Phillies, the Orioles, something. Yeah, that's just a lot. I'm not sure the Dodgers actually have the prospects to pull off that entire deal and get all those guys.
That's crazy.
A lot. Yeah.
That'd be crazy. Okay. That'd be a lot. All right. Let's see here. Perfect. I see someone yapping in chat. This is perfect. Tanner Scott. Dodgers are interested. Blake, where do you stand on Tanner Scott?
Well, so the report of Tanner Scott is he was expected to be traded in the next 24 hours, which would be by tomorrow when that report came out. So seems like it's getting close there. I think it's a foregone conclusion that he's traded. And if the Dodgers got him, I'd be really happy. I think he's one of the best relievers in baseball, really undervalued guy. My concern is the Dodgers aren't going to trade prospects for Tanner Scott because he's a reliever and one of the best relievers in baseball, and that's just not how they operate.
Firing deal.
Yeah, I just don't really see it happening. I mean, maybe they have more concern about Phillips and some of their bullpen guys that they let on. If they find out something with Alex Vesia, maybe that's more of a possibility, but I still think the Dodgers, from a reliever standpoint, are going to target like undervalued guys who they think they can fix, guys who are struggling, guys with upside. Like, they never really buy at the top of the relief pitcher market. I think the last time they did that was trying to get Aroldis Chapman in 2015 or whatever year that was. And of course, all the stuff with him came out of the domestic violence dispute and they backed out of the trade. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see them getting a big name closer or anything like that.
I see a lot of people talking about, that looks like a Preller deal ready to strike.
They traded all their prospects for a closer today. They got Jason Adam.
Three guys, right?
Yeah.
But he's got another year of control. I don't know how much trading for relievers is risky business. But I'm going to be in the camp that we're going to get the organizational speak that we've got. Our deadline additions are going to be the guys currently getting healthy in the minor leagues, making their way back. Unless it's like a buy low pickup, somebody that they can fix, something that they like, with some stuff that they can mold into the philosophy that's worked with them. So I think in that sense, but some people are talking in chat. Do the Dodgers have a closer issue right now, or do you think they have enough to figure it out?
Both. I think both is definitely the right answer there. I think their closer issue is a real thing. Evan Phillips was supposed to be that guy, but like we talked about earlier, he's obviously going through his struggles and needs to figure it out. But they have Brusdar hopefully coming back. Blake Trinan has looked great all year. Daniel Hudson has been great all year. Like, they have options, so like it's a problem that I think will fix itself when the starters start getting better.
Okay. Laura, I'm going to answer the best I can. Thanks for the super chat. What's my prediction? I've been telling Blake and I've been telling everybody that they're going to get Luis Robert. And I've been saying it, and if it doesn't happen, that is what it is. But I've liked Jack Flaherty. But I still think the biggest need is a center fielder. So I'm going to stick with Luis Robert, and I'm going to say they're going to get him. And if they don't, I'll be bummed. I'll be bummed. But if they don't, then they need to make sure that they find role players that are plus role players in their platoon spots. Something we talked about, Chad, for the last few weeks, that right now it's an uncomfortable spot for me looking at the roster, that they're not finding clear cut, platoon guys against righties, against lefties, and some mixture in a corner outfield spot. If Paez is it, if Hayward is it, then define that and go from there. I just want to have an everyday center fielder, someone that is plus defensively and offensively has enough upside to make me, feel comfortable leaving him out there every day, because Outman's terrific defensively. It's just the bat that I have no confidence in. And again, he homered today. I know about it, but I just think a center fielder is a big deal. But they do need a starting pitcher. I'm not going to rely on the rookies to give them big time innings in place of someone who has a little bit more experience. I expect the rookies to contribute. But I think that they do need a center fielder or, one top end from one tier one, center fielder or starter. Find one tier one guy. Flip it if you like, whatever, but they need to fill both those spots there and just define the roles for the role players that they currently have. And that's all I want. And then you can talk about Mookie Betts coming back. If they project Max Muncy, I still doubt heavily from there. So Laura, thank you so much. And I see some news about people saying Reyes Moranta passed away. That's terrible. Rest in peace to him, man. Former Dodger, former, big leaguer, but that's terrible news. That's awful news. Let's see what else we got. Yohan Ramirez claimed by the Red Sox. I know our Dodger fans have a ton to say about him. Anything, Blake? Do you care?
He was here, and now he's a Red Sox, and I think a lot of fans are happy about that, except for the part where he was here. So, pretty minor move from the Dodgers there and Red Sox. I don't think anyone's going to be upset he got claimed. When I tweeted that he didn't have a locker in the Dodgers clubhouse anymore, that was when a lot of fans were finding out he was about to be DFA'd, and my mentions kind of went crazy of people celebrating the news. So, it is what it is. I feel bad that it didn't work out for him, and he was really ineffective with the Dodgers, but maybe he'll catch on with the Red Sox now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier, he's had some stretches. I know a lot of after the infamous Dave Roberts hug, he went on a solid run there, and it worked until it didn't. Until a DFA pickup, waiver wire pickup worked until it didn't. That happens all the time. And to remember, Evan Phillips was a waiver wire pickup, and it's worked at an insane rate. The return for Evan Phillips, who unfortunately his bobblehead just got announced, has had this step back. But again, players pitchers lose it for a bit. We'll see. But Yohan Ramirez, he's not with the Dodgers anymore. Got picked up, just like James Paxton.
Honeywell and Banda reliever claims too. Just never know with relievers.
Yeah, Honeywell's been a dog. And I actually had this in my notes. I said a little bit. 6 appearances, 9 and 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 7 Ks. Hasn't allowed a run. He's got a save and a hold, and he did start one game. That was the first game he appeared in with the Dodgers. And we were talking about how he could go a little bit longer in there, but they didn't want to stretch him out. Unbelievable. He looks good, man. Somebody said Mr. Turtleneck. I like that. Shout out to the Turtleneck, man. He's been great. He's been good. And then we forget, there's options there. And they have closers with experience there. As long as Daniel Hudson doesn't get stretched too thin, they're able to keep him at a solid spot there. Because for a few years, the Dodgers, I think it was after Kenley or even in Kenley's tenure, we were saying, let's just go by committee. Best person for the spot. It doesn't necessarily have to be, Kenley Jansen in the 9th. Let's just go with what the best matchup is. And I'm not saying, oh, it's great that Evan Phillips is having a step back, but now the Dodgers are kind of forced to go matchup way. And I hope that their starting rotation gets to a point where their bullpen is rested enough where they feel comfortable doing that, where everybody's kind of at a rested point where they're not pitching on, 3 out of 4 days, back-to-backs all the time. So those matchups work in a good value spot. You kind of on that same thing?
I think so. I think there is some old school thinking that does make sense with having a set closer really allows everyone else to flourish because guys know what roles they're pitching in. But I think from like a new school baseball analytic mindset that I tend to prefer, I do like the idea when they're just playing matchups and letting the best relievers go out in the best spots that they're needed. So if it keeps working for the Dodgers like that, great. If they do end up having a set closer, I'm also fine with that. I think you still just need some flexibility even when you have a set closer and not just like sticking them in the 9th inning.
Think there's an injury going on with Evan Phillips? I think it's just some stuff regressing.
I don't think it's an injury because the other stuff has still been pretty good, like the slider and the fastball we've talked about. It's mainly been the cutter and his issues versus lefties and then some unluck from his last outing.
Sounds good. And the fact that he's, big time screwball guy, Dodgers are exploiting that pretty heavily. And his fastball looks good. Hitters look off balance there. So it's definitely some interesting thing. Closer issue. And I know people put closer question mark. Yeah. There's a spot where, do they have one? To define one? Doesn't matter. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I think matchup way is the kind of way that I've preferred for a bit. Dodgers have hinted that they like that a lot. Versatility and interchangeability is something I like out of it. And looking at, Blake Trinan, Brusdar Graterol's closed some games. Daniel Hudson, same thing. He's closing World Series games. So they have the experience there. It's just a matter of getting them to a spot where they're healthy at the end of the season. And that's just that comes from the starting rotation, giving them some length there. So everybody, if you want final stuff from me, they do need starting pitching. They need someone who's making every time through the rotation, some starts there. Jack Flaherty, I know people on Twitter were talking about his back and him missing a few starts there, but by all accounts, Ken Rosenthal confirmed that back hasn't been an issue. And he's been a high price. He's been a very quality arm this year. And I love what he brings to the table. High strikeout guy. He has the experience. So that's someone I would love to get in there. It's just, that's going to help everybody out. It's going to take away some of the worry. Are these return guys, injury return guys going to be so good? It's going to take the pressure off of them. But I think we can open up to questions now, Blake, right? I think we're on that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Everybody shout out, to you, 2000 in here. Put all caps question. Let us know. Blake wanted to have an early night so he could pack it in. He could pack it up and start getting prepared for San Diego. So keep him here all night. We're going to start this one off real quick. Any updates on Max Freeman? This is, thanks for the super chat, Gabriel. Thanks for the $2. Update on Max Freeman, Freddie's son, who unfortunately is dealing with a really difficult situation. And everybody at Dodger fans were thinking about it. Wish Freddie the best, his family. Hope that situation, gets figured out fairly quick because it's just terrible. Things that are bigger than baseball. And it just doesn't matter. Baseball's secondary to your family on the health of your kids, especially that way. I don't think there's been any updates yet, Blake.
No, so the best place to get the updates is from Chelsea Freeman on Instagram. She's been posting about it and sharing updates when they come out. So nothing new yet. For Freddie Freeman, the hope was going to be that he's back on Tuesday, but there's no set timeline for that. So if they're hoping Tuesday, then maybe things are getting a little better, but not really worth speculating or guessing too much on anything because it's just kind of like a situation where baseball definitely falls to the back burner of it and just focused on Freeman and his family there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think all fans agree. Everybody, just fans of Major League Baseball, fans of, if you've got kids, you feel for them. Things bigger than baseball. Your family comes first over kind of everything. And that's just how it goes. I want to start with off here. After today and kind of what you've seen. Thanks, Dave, for the question, man. Is River Ryan untouchable or is it too soon?
I think he's about as close to untouchable as you're going to get from a Dodger prospect at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, besides maybe like the Corey Seager types, but they haven't had that in quite a while. So it's hard. It would be really hard to trade him. Like, if it was a screwball deal, I'm still saying, like, thanks for helping us so long. Good luck in Detroit. Screwball is arguably the top pitcher in baseball, so anything kind of has to be on the table for that. But outside of a player like him, I don't think River Ryan's going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. This one's a good one for you. And I think something, a trend that we've kind of been going with, and it's about the floor raising stuff. The thinker, thanks for the question. Are the bottom lineups really that bad, or is it just because expectations of being in, I would say a Dodgers uniform or in the Dodgers lineup? Thank you. Give me your take, and I'm pretty sure it'll align with mine.
I know I say this a lot, but I think it's both. I think Dodger fans definitely sometimes have very high and unrealistic expectations for the team. Mm-hmm. You can't have an all-star at all 9 positions, and sometimes you just have to have average guys at the bottom of their lineup. It's always going to be a case usually, but they've also not had much average production from the bottom of their lineup. More recently, they've really picked it up. Kike Hernandez has been doing better. Gavin Lux has obviously stepped it up, and now he's 3-hole hitter Gavin Lux. So credit to him for figuring that out. But then you've seen like James Outman, who's expected to be a key guy at the bottom of their lineup, has been in AAA most of the year because he hasn't been able to figure out anything. Kevin Biggio has been forced into starting roles due to injuries, and he had a good series in Houston, but overall it's been really bad. Chris Taylor has been really bad for most of the year. So I think the bottom of the lineup has been very bad, but for what you should expect from the bottom of the lineup, I think it's just a bit of high expectations for fans also.
Yeah. Toss this one up here. So Dalton Rushing, I don't know if you saw, Blake. I'm pretty sure you did. You nod your head. Yeah. What do you make of Dalton Rushing playing left field? Dodgers top prospect, Dalton Rushing, catcher by trade. In AA right now, he's 23 years old. He's got an 842 OPS. So, from the left side, definitely a plus piece. He is someone that teams like. What do you make of him playing left field?
It's definitely interesting because we've talked about Rushing as their top trade piece because he's a catcher and they have Will Smith locked up, and usually catchers would end up playing first base if they're blocked, and the Dodgers have Freddie Freeman there. So it's definitely an intriguing thought because we have kind of thrown around the idea that maybe he moves to left field if he sticks around and he's athletic, and other catchers have done that in the past, like Wilson Contreras did it. I think Russell Martin did it for a while. There's been a few other guys too. So it's not like totally out of the realm of possibilities for catchers to do that. So for the Dodgers to go do that and say like, hey, maybe you're close to being ready, you could be an option next year. We've talked a lot about how they don't have options in their outfield next season, and maybe Rushing could be one of those guys if they don't end up trading him.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. He said, this is reeks of a showcase. I agree with that. I think teams that might be, if they're catchers in the organization, they might just want to, show that, he's got some versatility. He can play a corner infield spot. I think I'm seeing that Dalton Rushing has played, first base. He's DH this year. Catcher by trade, like I said, just opening it up to left field if he's athletic enough. I kind of am in the camp that showing, okay, you could use this guy. He can play left field. Doesn't necessarily have to be that. Depending how he grades out defensively, I'm not sure. But I'm not saying he's Dalton Varsho type where he's a catcher and he can go to the outfield and be one of the best. It's just enough that the Dodgers have enough catchers, a lot of them, but they want to show that they can play multiple spots. Thanks for almost 2,100 in here across all platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Long one. There's a lot to talk about. And again, we've got time towards the deadline. Things are going to ramp up. There's going to be underwhelming move for sure. I think we can all bank on that. It's just a matter of how long till Scott is let down that Luis Robert is not a Dodger. And I think Blake is only reason he's praying on that not to happen is so I can weep, because he relishes in those opportunities. With Muncy likely out for the season, what is Friedman going to do to address such a vital position? Where do you stand on third base?
I think we've kind of talked about this a lot, that they're probably going to target a backup infielder who has the ability to play third base. I don't think they've given up on Muncy coming back, whether that's the right decision or not, or if they're just kind of lying about it so they're not like losing trade value or anything. It's tough because we don't know a whole lot about his injury besides it's an oblique thing that has stopped him from swinging, but he hasn't made any progress in the 2 months already it's been or whatever it's been. So it's concerning, but I think they'll add a backup infielder for sure. I don't think they're going to be targeting like top of the market third baseman or any real caliber starting third baseman there. It'll just be someone like Tommy Edman or Luis Rengifo who can fill in there or other positions if Muncy does come back.
It's an interesting question right here. Thanks for this one. How's this? I'm a man, Cheetah. What's up, dude? Thanks for tuning in. If we don't make a big splash at the deadline, are you giving Friedman's judgment any benefit of the doubt, or will you be ready to write it off as a clear failure? It's a tricky one because Friedman's all about, cost and return. Being, Gomes, that's where the organizational speaks comes into it. That is the deal worth it? Are like giving up that value in prospects and major league players and contract stuff? Is it worth it? And not going to do a deal just for the sake of doing a deal. He said that multiple times. I've heard it face-to-face interviews around Andrew Friedman. That's not just a thing he does. Blake's heard this a lot. Blake knows. And if you've listened to what Andrew Friedman has said, there's a reason why the Dodgers can maintain a farm system like that, because honestly, it might come from inaction. Like some of the best moves Friedman's made have probably, the ones he did make. And ones like that, and making the mistake of overpaying for a reliever has probably allowed him to make another big deal later down the line. So I don't think that it's something off that's a clear failure. It's a roster that definitely needs help. It'll be a failure in terms of not raising the floor, because I think that's something that's not that difficult for them to do. And I think from a standpoint of getting the big fish, that won't be something that the Dodgers have to do, because again, they're going to say, we might, the injury guys coming back, Mookie, if Muncy returns, if they think there's some shred of hope that he does, then they just need to improve the floor of the bench, because right now they have, you have Freddie Freeman, you have Mookie Betts, you have Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith at the top, Teoscar Hernandez. Like you have enough there where if you just lift up the production from the role-playing guys from where the 60 WRC plus average, they kind of all were weeks ago, that increases the offense, so much that we just haven't seen it. If we thought offense when they were record setting, I think in 21, might have been last year, I think they broke that record or something, but runs scored, it would do even more damage. So I'd be disappointed if they don't go out and find players just to raise the floor and say, they've been performing lately, we don't have to do it, we've got enough, and just stand pat. So that's the way that I'll look at it, as a failure, not like a clear, complete meltdown. There's things they can do that aren't, and I'm not gaslighting, really. I'm just giving like the bare bones. Like if they don't make the big deal, it just wasn't there. Giving up that much is a lot to do. I think there's ways to improve the roster without going out and making the big move. It's just they need to improve on the margins, but get actual productive players there that have a clear, defined role.
I think I'm going to slightly disagree with you here. I think this is the trade deadline where you have to go make a big splash. You just signed Ohtani in the offseason and Yamamoto. We've talked about how their window is like 3 or 4 years at this point to win a championship or two. Like, you have to go do something. This team has enough top-end talent to win. Go make the splash you need to get another piece and try and push yourself over the top. We've seen teams that have been aggressive at the deadline. It tends to pay off usually. And teams that don't do much usually comes back to bite them. And this team is just so talented. Like, you have to go get a Jack Flaherty or a Garrett Crochet or a Luis Robert, even a Cody Bellinger or something like that. I know there's been someone asking in the chat a lot about, will Bellinger come back? Maybe it's a possibility. I think he'd be a really good fit for the team. And like, he's not a superstar player anymore, but he would be a great addition to what this team needs. And I think it would be splashy enough where you can justify saying, like, they saw a hole on their roster and they went out and addressed it. And I think I would be happy with that. If they went out and got like Jack Flaherty, Tommy Pham, and Tommy Edman, I think that would be a trade deadline we could say is a win. And if they just end up with a few kind of mid-tier guys, I think we're going to be really critical of this front office and how they kind of punted last year. Then they came back and they didn't do a whole lot to raise the floor and improve the team this year. So I think they do have to go kind of make a splash.
Fair points. Absolutely. Definite fair points. Would you call it a failure if they don't?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
okay.
What are we talking about as like a splash? If they go out and
you brought up the big names, you brought up the guys. Like I'm saying, like if they're not getting Crochet or Skubal, which I didn't think would happen, that's what I'm saying is like the clear cut number one. Like a lot of people, people who don't know who Jack Flaherty is, they're not looking at him like he's a big time ace arm. They're just not. Let's be honest, they aren't. But we know he's productive. That's who I'm looking at. Yeah, people saying he screams Dodgers. I would love it. I think that would be a big time thing. Something that if you're able to do it, go do it. I'm not pitching wise. I don't think there's anything that they could do dumpster diving wise where I'll feel content. I think you have to go get it. Like if there's an arm out there that'll slot right in and he's been productive and you don't have to fix anything, perfect. I think that just needs to be done. There's no way they can trot into the postseason again with a ton of question marks, praying that Walker Buehler, Bobby Miller, Clayton Kershaw are enough, along with, Yamamoto getting healthy, with Glass now, blowing past career high in innings, and then a ton of rookies coming in and doing that with Gavin Stone. So I think there needs to be a move for a starting pitcher, but offensively, I think there's enough that they can do on the margins to boost the offense to a point where they feel comfortable enough.
Yeah, I mean, they need to do stuff. That's the bottom line here. The level of what they need to do, I think, can be debated a lot.
Sure.
I think they'd probably be fine getting like 4 or 5 just quality major league players that maybe aren't going to be the impact type players that a lot of fans are looking for, but I think it would help make them a complete team, and that's really all you need to be. Mm-hmm. And I do think we could consider that a splash. Like, you can't go out and get Lance Lynn and Ahmed Rosario again, even though Rosario's been having a really good year. So maybe it's not the best example there, but I hate to do this, but I'll throw Joey Gallo under the bus. You can't go have that kind of trade deadline. You have to go do some things that can really improve the team and be more of a guarantee than like betting on guys turning it around.
Where do you stand on this? This is where I'm at, frankly. Like when I see people talk about that the best trade deadline that they could have, and they list off the number of guys coming back from injury and hoping that they're able to hit the ground running and go from there.
Yeah.
I'm not in that camp. I can't sign up for it, frankly.
Yeah, I think you have to bet on the guys coming back, besides like Mookie, because I think Mookie is a guarantee to come back, and we're all knowing that. Like the Yamamotos, the Bobby Miller, Walker Buehler, Max Muncy, them coming back would be a very great surprise. I think you have to kind of look at it as, but you can't be betting on them to come back actually.
And Mr. Classic, I see you in chat talking about don't waste these guys' prime, and I agree. Like Blake and I have been, we have been on we've had several conversations about the window right now, and whether they attack it now, whether they see the deals able to happen at the deadline, whether they do it in the offseason. I think that for where the team is at, where the league is at, I think they have enough if they, bring in the help to make this season, a big time success. Every season with this type of team should be something where you're pushing for, a ring. There should be we're going to just look towards next season. BC, yeah, I see it. The window's closing. It's I would say a 3-year window. Blake and I have tossed that around a bit, 2 years, 3 years. I think we've landed on 3 years of stuff with Mookie, Freddie, getting up there in age, and now Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith, all those guys in prime career. It needs to be now. It really does. Like it really does. And they're thankful. Dodger fans, we are thankful. And I remember I forgot who I had a conversation with. Our Dodger fans spoiled. We're spoiled that year in and year out, the Dodgers have a comfortable lead in the division. So we're able to sit here after the team looks like they are, a sweep away from freaking out. And people might still be, but they have a little bit of comfortable division lead. You make these moves, guys get healthy, and go from there. You can look towards projections, but I'm still not in the camp that they can just say, we've got guys coming back, and that's the best deadline we're going to do, especially with the same point we've talked about and all these prospects getting older, and other teams know that. So whether you're able to use them, get rid of them, include them as pieces, go from there. But something we're both in agreement, all of us, chat, everybody watching 2100 world, they need to do something. Absolutely something. We will not sign up for the camp that injury returns is the best deadline they could have. All right, we're going to take a couple more here. Let's see. TQT, I like this question because this was something we've talked about with Tony Gonsolin in his All-Star year. I believe that was 2021. Yeah, in LA. And if that was the year to sell high on him, is any chance? I don't think so. With where the roster currently is at, maybe in the offseason, we'll talk about it. Where are you at on that?
I'm open to it in the right deal. Like if it's for a Crochet and Robert type deal or Skubal, even though I don't think that's happening, like I wouldn't be totally opposed to trading Gavin Stone. I'm not trading him for prospects or anything, but for an impact major leaguer, yeah, I think I would be able to be talked into that. He doesn't have elite strikeout stuff, and that's been a concern. He's been effective, but he's probably a number 3 starter at best for the long term. So I think you could move on from that if the right deal was there.
Yeah, I've got you. Definitely. I see people talking, what is this? Do I think Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin's days are over? You think they're over?
No. I mean, they're going to bounce around at minimum if they don't come back and be effective because every team needs pitching. But I think they'll still come back and be at least fine starters, at least for Gonsolin. Dustin May might need to be a reliever. He's always injured. Don't know what's going on with him. But
crazy injury. What a crazy thing to have happen. Esophagus, like a crazy deal, man. All right, Hep. This is one that I'll have to look into. This is very interesting. I don't know if there's any correlation to that. Betts, Freeman, Smith all have very low bat speeds according to StatCast. They all have come up short in the playoffs. Do you think there's any correlation?
I mean, I would push back on all of them coming up short in the playoffs recently. I think Freddie Freeman has been really good in the postseason throughout his career. He was bad last year with the Dodgers, and that's what's going to stick in our minds, and we remember that. But overall, he's been really good. Will Smith has some big postseason moments for the Dodgers, like notably his 2020 season. It's a big part of that run there. Mookie has not been great in the postseason in pretty much any year. So maybe there's some concern there, but I don't think it's really related to bat speed or anything.
For sure.
There's a lot of like variance in those bat speed things. Like you have some really good hitters at the top and some really good bad hitters at the bottom and some really good hitters in the middle and bad hitters spread throughout it. Like I think there's not too much that we should really look into that when it comes to postseason success, at least from my opinion.
This is another good one. Scott Henderson, thanks for the question, man. We appreciate you. How challenging is it to make multiple high-profile trades when we are relying on young pitchers, prospects in the rotation? Incredibly difficult. Because this isn't like the Josiah Gray year where he came up, he had a couple starts, and then the Nats, that was it. They saw that I think he had one very solid start before they traded him at Dodger Stadium, I believe. And then he was gone. I don't think this is a year where if River Ryan having a start like today, teams are absolutely going to be asking about him for what the Dodgers need. We're talking about a rotation last year into the playoffs that absolutely imploded, and you cannot put yourself in a spot where you have the luxury of dealing guys who have the possibility of being required to pitch, high leverage innings down the stretch in a starting pitching role. You on the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult to make a high profile trade regardless of who you have in your organization, unless you're willing to give up like the Orioles, Jackson Holiday and Colton Cowser and some of their other really highly touted prospects. It's just always going to be difficult to make a high profile trade. And then anytime you add in other variables to that, like guys on the major league roster and things like that, it just makes it even more difficult. So yeah, I mean, to a degree, it hurts them a little bit, but if they want to go get a guy, I don't think they're going to say we can't trade Justin Wrobleski because he's on our major league roster or anything.
Yeah.
They'll find ways to get it done if they really want to.
Couple more guys. We're running an hour and a half, over 2100, almost 22. Thanks everybody for tuning in on a Sunday. Big few days, day off tomorrow. Go ahead, Blake.
I'll answer this one real quick.
Yeah.
Why are Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin on the 40-man? They are not. They're both on the 60-day IL, which removes them from the 40-man, or it doesn't take up a spot on your 40-man roster when they're on the 60-day IL. They're just still going to be listed on there because they haven't been released or anything like that. So neither of them are taking up 40-man spots.
I see chatter. What are people talking about? What are people talking about? Are you guys trolling? Is there stuff going on? If there's stuff going on and I'm not seeing it, please let me know. If there's rumors going on, let me know.
The only thing was that Eric Fetty 3-team deal that was being talked about. I'm not sure how great the source was for that.
Where are you seeing that, Mr. Classic? I'll have to pull it up. We're going to keep taking questions. Any super chats? Remember, just toss those in. We'll stop what we're doing, answer that. It'll become a topic for a bit. We've had a lot of good, thought-provoking questions on there the last few times we've been on there, so we appreciate those. Chris, what would a Teoscar extension look like? I think we tossed around numbers-wise, like 3 years, 75. Is that something you'd be comfortable signing up for?
I would do 20 to 25 million a year for 3 or 4 years. I think they'd probably, if it's 4 years, it'd probably be a team option or player vesting option or something like that. But I think that's probably the fair range you're going to be looking at for a deal with him.
Okay. Yeah. They need to get it done. This is my overly biased take, Chris, just so you know, everybody watching. Teoscar's just got it, man. Very few times do you find a player on a 1-year contract that steps in. He, rises to the moment. Lights aren't too bright. He loves the spotlight thing, which he said early in his career he didn't like. And now he's at a spot where he's been very vocal about wanting to be a Dodger, staying a Dodger. I don't know about retiring a Dodger, but definitely staying with the Dodgers for a few more years. And he's performed. He gave them for whatever it means. He gave them their first, home run derby winner. He brought the Dodgers through, an all-star break that could have sucked. And he's him. Yeah, I see Pin Santas. Yeah, that's why I'm tossing that in there. He's just a good addition. And with Max Muncy in there, that just lengthened the lineup. And he's a bat profile that I think is going to excel in the postseason. I love it. He's a free swinger, but it doesn't look like he's uncomfortable out there, and doesn't have an approach. LA loves him. Yeah. It's very rare that a 1-year deal happens like this and someone is, performs, is universally loved, wants to be there, and is taking every opportunity in stride, doing everything asked. So it's not like a contract where I'm saying just reward him for being good. I think that it's an area of need and he wants to be there. So it's in the budget without a doubt. He chose the Dodgers. He chose to take the contract to come to LA. And that's something that I think that, that's honorable. Who wouldn't want to play for the Dodgers, right? It just, is working out that you're able to get him, out of Seattle after he left. And he's thriving. I love it. So yeah, I would love that one. Any more questions? We'll pop those up here. TQT, thank you, man. Dodgers are super quick to platoon young guys. Are you surprised that Paredes hasn't been platooned yet with his struggles versus righties?
I think it's more about they don't have another option to really play center field that they're confident in. It would be James Outman getting the reps out there, and he has hit worse than Paredes this year against righties. So I think it's more just they don't really have anyone to platoon him with.
All right. If we see anything else, guys, a little last call. We're going to last call this one.
I saw the 3-team deal report that's being discussed. It's from KPRC Houston.
Gimme.
And it is saying the Dodgers, Cardinals, and White Sox have discussed the framework of a 3-team trade. The Dodgers are working to acquire Tommy Edman. The Cardinals are interested in Eric Fetty. So, I mean,
okay.
I'll wait for a bigger name to report that. And then if it happens, maybe we can jump on here again and do another live show or something.
Yeah, I'll be around. Everybody watching, I'll be around. If there's anything people want to talk about it, and then hypothesize from there. But other than that, I think anything big drops, I'll hop back on. Other than that, I think it's, Jacuzzi's calling my name tonight. You got to pack. I think we'll be okay.
What
time's the therapy session?
I will be in San Diego, so it would either have to be really late after the game when I get back from the stadium to the hotel, or Scott's going to be hosting therapy by himself or with Matt or someone, because I think we're going to have a longer show during the day, like leading up to the trade deadline, probably starting at 2 unless anything breaks earlier. And we'll have people rotating in and out and just trying to like stay up with all the up-to-date news and rumors as they're happening. So stay tuned for that one. And we'll see about a late one on Tuesday, but we might have to wait on that.
Sounds good. Other than that, Kira, same time Thursday. Blake and I will be here. But I'll be on Tuesday, guys. So you can count on that. But I think we'll wrap that. Thanks everybody for being here. 2,200. Kenny, I had a great time in Vegas. So thanks everybody for bearing with me. They made no moves while I was there. So that was great. Blake would have been in panic like the one time I left him on the opening, by himself. He would have been in shambles there. But thanks everybody again for tuning in. Blake and I love this a bunch. This is, a good buddy of mine. We just love to get on here and talk ball with all of you. Make sure you hit the like button before you head out. We appreciate you. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. My name is Scott Geirman, senior staff writer, Dodger Blue. This is managing editor Blake Williams, Dodger Blue. He's a dynamo. He works his butt off, and he's headed out to give us some good coverage in San Diego. So stay tuned, everybody. Keep the notifications on. It's somebody say it up higher up in the comments. It's kind of Judgment Day, banking on how much you put into this deadline for this season. The Dodgers need to make a few moves to make fans feel comfortable that there's enough, that they're able to put this all together, because it's World Series or bust. It's got to be. With a roster like this, that's where it's at. That's the stakes. So stay tuned. It could be getting crazy one way or the other. So thanks everybody. We're going to head out. Buckle in. Go Dodgers.